if this game didn't confirm that, like, this is something that I'm not overreacting to because of the fact that he. What's up, fantasy football friends? Today we're going to be wrapping up Week 1 Sunday games and giving you our favorite waiver wire ads headed into Week 2. But first, we have some news.
Yeah, guys. Good Week 1. A lot of ups, a lot of downs. The biggest news I'm gonna say right now, I think we'll get into more of it. Just as we go game through game. But J.K. Dobbins tearing his Achilles, guys, absolutely devastating. Just from an overall football perspective, if you're a football person, that's what he's come back from this year. That's just like really devastating to see.
Yeah, dude, and now that he's off of his contract, he'll be off of his rookie contract.
I didn't even think about that.
He's gonna be signed for such a low cost now. I mean, no one wants to invest heavily in him just to.
He'll probably get like a minimum deal, like a prove it deal,
like a 1-year minimum. And I mean, teams are just worried to have to put him through rehab the whole season, bro. Like,
dude, that's so. Yeah, that's just like devastating. Like I said, from a football perspective.
Yeah,
just crushing to the soul.
Stuff to look at though, that's positive in that situation is the fact that Kareem Hunt and Leonard Fournette are still out there. Jonathan Taylor looking for trades. Colts are now even more open to trading him, and he could be passing his physical soon, which would, qualify him to be a good trade candidate. So stuff to look out for sure. Just a little bit, depressing that, such a talent goes out.
And especially like he had so much hype coming into the season, healthy, that sort of thing. But unfortunate to see, guys. But we're gonna move right into it.
I wanted to mention one more thing, and that's Chris Jones is now signed to a 1-year deal with a bunch of
incentives.
With a bunch of incentives, and so he's satisfied there for at least this year. Last year, guys, huge for that defense. Last year was the most double-teamed guy in the league and also had the most sacks at 15.5. So, absolute talent there.
Yeah. Defensive player of the year candidate year in and year out. So, that's, like I said, big addition to have that back in the fold for Kansas City. All right, guys, moving to Atlanta. Carolina was visiting them this week. Bit of a really uneventful game, but there were definitely some stars on the Atlanta side. So I'll start off with the Panthers. Bryce Young, guys, looked like a rookie. Safe to say. You can't really expect much, guys, from a rookie. His first start in the NFL, regardless of if you're the first pick or a late pick like that. Bryce Young finished 146 yards, touchdown, 2 interceptions. Obviously not a guy on fantasy radar, but a guy that I did kind of like from what I saw at least. I know he did have a relatively lower pitch count than what we expected, but Miles Sanders, guys, looked pretty solid. 18 carries, 72 yards, so a 4 yards per carry average, and then got 6 targets, which was something you and I had talked about coming into the season. We thought he would get more of that receiving work, unlike what we saw in Philly, so he ended up with 4 receptions for 26 yards. Great to see that usage potential out of him. Chuba was the next closest running back with 9 carries, and I think that's great for Sanders owners, guys, if you got him in the 4th or 5th round. A guy that's I feel like is going to be a solid RB2 for you week in and week out. Might not give you those real boom weeks or anything, but I feel like a solid guy.
Yeah. Another guy to mention here that is someone that you can look to pick up on your waiver wire is Hayden Hurst. I think that he's going to emerge as one of the better tight ends to come out of the waiver wires. And obviously he had a great game. In the tight end position, you just kind of ride that and hope it works out. So Hayden Hurst is a good ad there. He had 15.1 PPR points, 5 receptions, 41 yards, and a touchdown. And just a security blanket for Bryce Young that he's going to need. We didn't really see Jonathan Mingo step up too much in that game as I wanted, but guys, week 1, so.
Yeah, right. Can't put too much stock into week 1, guys, but you do like to see, like Hayden Hurst led the team in targets with 7, so that's a great sign. Like we said, Miles Sanders was second there, tied with Terrace Marshall. But moving to Atlanta, guys, which is a little more interesting. Desmond Ridder, obviously low volume, only 18 attempts. Unfortunately, my guy Drake London, guys, 1 target, nothing to put up in the stat count. But this running game, as we expected, very scary, very efficient. Averaged 5 yards as a team, guys. Algier ended up pacing them in terms of carries with 15 for 75 yards, 5 yards per carry average, 2 touchdowns, guys. So we do know him to be that sort of goal line red zone back.
Yeah.
So that's like this could be a situation. Obviously, week 1, so you're not putting too much into trends. But Algier and Robinson could really both be playable.
Yeah.
Throughout this season, if we see this sort of balance, Bijan getting 10 carries. Obviously, I think we'll see games where Bijan gets upwards of 15 to 20 where they just ride him. But also Bijan very efficient, 56 yards on the ground off of 10 carries. And he got 6 targets, so he paced the team in targets. 6 receptions, 27 yards, and a touchdown. So did kind of salvage his day with that touchdown. So very encouraging stuff. Your guy Kyle Pitts, 3 targets, had a long catch for 34 yards, guys. 2 receptions, 44 yards total. Nothing to brag about. Like I said, Drake London was a bust, but that running game is something definitely that we know Atlanta to really lean on and, no pun intended, but run. That's what they run on.
Yeah.
So,
Falcons guys, just stay away from their receivers. I know you own Drake London in our league of record, but
yeah,
I mean it's looking bleak there, guys. And Kyle Pitts, I've already advised so heavily against.
Yeah.
Still week 1, so still time
Right.
to see what happens. But with such a strong run game with Bijan and then Algier backing him up, it's gonna be hard to see any one of those people being a consistent starter in that offense. Honestly,
I just hope Drake London breaks his pace of 16 targets for the season. That'd be awful. But moving to our next game, guys, we got Cincy, who went into Cleveland. Was not the outcome that we expected. But if you look at history, Joe Burrow is now 1-5 or 1-6 it is against Cleveland. So I guess we should have foreseen that a little bit more, but not something we expected. Obviously, Cleveland coming out on top 24-3, guys. Neither quarterback, obviously Burrow was far from what we expected, but Watson got the W, obviously, but he didn't look too good himself either. Like, it really wasn't anything to brag about. Now, he did have 5 rushes for 45 yards and a touchdown, which is great for your fantasy quarterback. But only, 16 for 29, so you're looking at a little above 50%, only 154 yards. So nothing great. And Burrow, I'm not even going to spend, 82 yards. That's all I'm going to say, guys. 82 yards. Again, week 1, I'm not putting too much stock into this. I don't think Joe Burrow's going to pass for,
Yeah, no worries about Burrow.
Yeah, no, I've no worries about Burrow. We know his talent. And then one bright spot on that offense, I guess, guys, from a fantasy perspective, is that Joe Mixon got 13 of the carries in that backfield, 56 yards. So he averaged 4.3 yards per carry, which is very good.
Especially for Joe Mixon.
Yeah, right. That's what we're looking for from Joe Mixon this year, guys, compared to last year when he was below league average. 4.3 is league average. So if he's at that mark or can sustain above that mark, that'd be great for his fantasy outlook. Also ended up with 5 targets, so tied for 3rd on the team. 3 receptions, 17 yards. So obviously not a big day or anything. You're looking at roughly 10 points there. But on a day where since he only put up 3 points, that's, somewhat of a plus.
Kind of a wacky game, honestly.
Yeah.
Definitely an outlier for the whole season.
Right.
I mean, Chase owners, Higgins owners definitely don't stress too much about it.
8 targets, no receptions. Guys, if a player gets 8 targets, like, I know he put up a dud, like a literal dud, but 8 targets, guys, you're happy with it. He's getting looks. Like, he's going to get looks. He's going to have an output throughout the season. Like, do not worry about this. Do not give trade T. Higgins for a bag of chips. Same with Jamar Chase. But the bright spot in this game, in terms of fantasy, was definitely Nick Chubb. 18 carries, 106 yards, caught all his targets, 4 for 21. Just, a stud as always, as we've seen on the ground. And if he can get 3 to 4, I thought Diggs just scored another touchdown. If he can get 3 to 4 receptions a game, that just ups his floor and also his ceiling in general. So I like what I saw out of Chubb. Not a big receiving output out of anyone on that team. As we said, Watson only with 154 yards.
Amari Cooper with the stinker as well.
Yeah, 3 for 37. Him and Elijah Moore were tied for targets, guys. So Elijah Moore, guys, I expect him to be drafted in your leagues. If he's not, go pick him up. They're gonna use him. He's a very talented player. I have him rostered on my team. But, guys, he's going to get used out of the backfield. He had 2 carries for 19 yards, so he's a dynamic player. We know him to be that.
Yeah.
So, guys, that pretty much covers that game. Definitely a surprise to both of us. We were both picking the Bengals for sure in that one, but week 1, guys.
Strong start for the
never know.
Browns. And honestly, you like to see that defense healthy. They were concerned
Right.
about Ward. He played. And that
Dude.
defense looked impressive.
Guys, I love Denzel Ward. I'm a huge Denzel guy.
I don't think we've seen multiple games in a season where Denzel Ward and Myles Garrett are both healthy.
Yeah, on the field at the same
And
time.
they're
That's
a
their top
threat.
2 guys, yeah.
Yeah.
If you got a guy that can cover any number 1 in the league and then a guy that can beat any offensive tackle in the league, that's huge. Oh, guys, one piece of news for the Browns. Jack Conklin is out with an ACL and MCL tear, guys, out for the season. Their star right tackle. So we'll have to see how much that affects Deshaun Watson and Nick Chubb in that running game and passing game. Something to watch out for. Obviously, NFL, you next man up, you play through it, figure it out. So something to keep an eye on. Moving to Indianapolis. Hashtag depressing Indianapolis.
Yep.
Jacksonville was in town, ended up getting the W 31-21. A much closer game than that score would make you think it was. I was really hoping Indy would pull it out just because big underdogs. And Anthony Richardson looked solid. Wasn't great, but kind of gave us what we thought. 200 passing yards, a touchdown, an interception. Was a little off on some of his throws. The interception was pretty bad. 10 carries for 40 yards and a touchdown. So that de facto running back, essentially, which in terms of fantasy, guys, is a very good thing.
Yeah, you hit that 20-point mark.
Yeah.
Kind of look for that.
Right. So a very good outlook for fantasy this year, guys. He's going to be a dynamic player. If he can up his efficiency in the passing game, dude, that's a scary guy. Going to that receiving core, Michael Pittman.
Yeah.
Big game.
If you guys are watching the live stream that went on right before the games, called the Michael Pittman over Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson obviously caught that touchdown real early, had me kind of sweating a little bit, but Michael Pittman had my back, so we're all good.
Yes, 11 targets, 8 receptions, 97 yards, a touchdown. So
yeah,
big game from him.
Deion Jackson, 71% snap share. That's actually really encouraging, knowing that Jonathan Taylor is still on the PUP and probably will get traded. If not, Deion Jackson falls if Taylor were to return. But he got most of the valuable opportunities, most of the opportunities in general. 71% snap share. I think that you can be safe playing Deion Jackson as an RB2 right now for the weeks to come. And honestly, pretty good outlook for him. Pretty good fantasy game.
Yeah. So, guys, no other real notable people from Indianapolis in terms of that receiving core. Josh Downs with 7 targets is great. Only 3 catches, though. Alec Pierce, guys, only 3 targets and 1 reception. So nothing real notable there. Moving over to Jacksonville side of things, Trevor Lawrence didn't look great. That offense looked really weird. Didn't look real comfortable at first. Ended up with a all right game, through the interception, obviously. Rushed for 21 yards, threw for 241 and 2 touchdowns, guys.
Calvin
Ridley, dude. You can have that.
Man.
Him and
8
Pittman
receptions for 101 yards and a touchdown. I mean, he looked electric. He looked like the guy that we want, man.
Yeah, the guy we know him to be.
It's really cool to see him back in action and on this explosive offense.
Yes.
Their wide receivers are insane. Up there with the best, honestly.
Absolutely.
Ridley is an absolute beast. So I really like to see that. 24 points in fantasy this week. Absolutely amazing player. And someone that in the beginning of the season, I know this is first game, so we don't overreact, but I think Calvin Ridley's a safe overreaction. If you're going to call everything an overreaction, then I think this is one that we actually stick to.
Yes.
And
I would agree.
Absolutely amazing there. Definitely going to be the alpha throughout the season.
Yeah. A dud, though, was definitely Christian Kirk.
Yeah.
1 reception, 9 yards on 3 targets, guys. I expect that target share to go up. I don't expect him to be, the 5th most targeted guy week in and week out. He's obviously a talented player. He's on a big contract there. So I think, we can look for him to put up a better output week to week. Zay Jones had a good game. 5 receptions, 55 yards, a touchdown, guys. Evan Ingram, solid. Gave you 9.9. ETN had a great game. He had 18 carries, guys, 77 yards, so dominated that backfield. although Tank Bigsby did have 7, but was not nearly as efficient with those touches. And then ETN also saw 5 targets, caught all of them. So good game from ETN. If you're an ETN owner, definitely happy with that output.
Yeah.
That sort of touch percentage.
Right. And he's someone that Peterson boasted to be a potential 1,700 yard runner. So, guys, he has big hopes for ETN this year.
Right.
Obviously, very explosive and 80% snap share. That's awesome. One thing I wanted to go back to Christian Kirk because you brought up his bad game. He's going to be the third receiver behind Calvin Ridley and Zay Jones. He got 60% of the snaps, and behind him is Jamal Agnew and Tim Jones at 4% and 3% respectively. So his role is solidified as that slot guy.
Yeah.
We did know that his snap share would go down a little bit being secluded into that slot role, but I think that the Jaguars are going to be able to mix it up week to week, and there's going to be a lot of weeks where Christian Kirk pays off dividends.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that could be, bothersome for Kirk and Zay Jones owners. It's like, you're going to have to guess which week is who.
Right.
So if you have both those guys in your team, I'll try to move one of them for sure, because that's just going to be a headache.
Try to sell high on Christian Kirk if that's possible.
Yeah, if he puts up,
I
mean, I would sell high on Zay Jones right now if you can. But guys, moving to a really weird game, a really pathetic game in terms of viewer, like, I don't know. I watched like one drive and I was like, no, I'm not watching this anymore. Minnesota and Tampa Bay guys. Tampa Bay pulled out the W, man. Good for them. Everyone was, counting them out for sure.
Yeah, I was kind of hooked on it, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just not a very enthusing game.
It's one of those games that when Red Zone turns it on, like I kind of zone in a little bit more just because it's Tampa Bay and.
Right. You want to see what happens?
Yeah, my guy Rashad
and
White.
Rashad,
Yeah, 79% of the snaps. So he does have that workhorse role, guys. We did see Sean Tucker with 5 carries, 15 yards. I mean, Rashad White was also very inefficient.
Yeah.
So interesting to see how that plays out. Rashad White, I think Sean Tucker is the better talent there in that backfield.
Interesting.
I think he is, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rashad definitely has a solidified role there.
He does.
He's going to be the lead guy, but I will say they were trying to pound the ball, 33 carries. So, that's encouraging, but the 2.2 average is not encouraging as a team.
Right.
But Baker, a pretty clean game. Not a great completion percentage, but obviously only 173 yards, but 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Not saying he should be on your fantasy radar, guys. I don't think it's going to be that great week in and week out. But I will say, dude, we were counting out. Mike Evans showed up and shut us up. That's for sure. 6 receptions, 66 yards, and a touchdown, guys. 10 targets. So he could be that guy this year for Baker. But Chris Godwin behind him with 6 targets, 5 receptions, 51 yards. Encouraging to see that type of production for both of them starting out the season, because we were kind of like really up in the air with how we felt about Baker and just what that overall offense was going to be without Brady in terms of volume and that sort of thing. So encouraging to see them so far ahead of the rest of the pack.
I like to see Baker too, like when he just rushed for that first down and just absolutely ate the tackle. Like, he is a player that
he's got grit, dude.
He
like,
loves the game. You can just tell when you watch him.
Like,
he's super competitive.
He's a guy, like, I want to see him succeed.
Yeah.
Like, I do. Regardless of like what you think about him, I want to see Baker succeed. He's got fire, he's got grit. Just a guy it's hard not to cheer for, in my opinion.
Right. He really is.
Yeah. But moving to Minnesota's side of things, Kirk Cousins, guys, a high output game, 344 yards on 44 attempts, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Almost like a stat line that you and I say, like, you're destined for if Kirk Cousins is your guy.
Yeah.
So a great, I mean, you're not going to see that
lot of
yardage.
yards.
Yeah, you're not going to see that yardage total week in and week out, but 2 touchdowns, guys. Justin Jefferson was great. Obviously, the guy we all know him to be. 12 targets, 9 receptions, 150 yards. The alpha of the NFL, really. Except for this one guy we'll be talking about in a few games from here. But
his name is the Lion.
Yeah. And then my guy, Jordan Addison. Good game. 6 targets, so tied for third in the pecking order behind TJ Hawkinson, tied with KJ Osborne, but 4 receptions, 61 yards, and a touchdown, guys. So found Pater, which was really good for him. The guy I think should be in your flex spot week in and week out. TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, with Jordan Addison, 56% snap share. As a wide receiver 3, you kind of expect that,
Right.
but obviously ultra efficient in that. And I think that as the season progresses, if he keeps putting up this type of efficiency, like
He's gonna
there's
see
no
the
way he
field.
doesn't start to overtake KJ Osborne.
Yeah. And it's almost a situation where like Osborne just has that build as an outside wide receiver. So in 2 wide receiver sets, you're probably gonna see Osborne in there more often than not. But Addison's gonna find his way to the field, guys. Uber talented.
Right.
Hawkinson, 9 targets, but and 8 receptions, but only 35 yards. So 4.4 yards per catch, not what you want to see, but still ended up with 11.5 fantasy points, guys. So you're not upset with the output. It's just what we expect. If you told me TJ Hawkinson's going to get 8 receptions, I'm thinking he's going to have at least 70 yards or something like that,
Or a touchdown.
Right. So
I mean, he's a great pick.
yeah.
TJ Hawkinson is gonna be a top performer week in, week out. I really like Hawkinson, and this was something I think you can expect to see from him. 8 receptions, around that
Right.
many targets or receptions each game.
Yeah.
And probably the touchdown more often than not.
Right. So guys, moving to that Minnesota rushing game, not a very good output, a very low output total, only 17 carries, guys, as a team. In a low scoring game, that's kind of odd, surprising, but they were facing a great Bucks D line, so they probably deferred from running the ball would be my thoughts, deferred from running and just pass. Madison with 11 carries, 34 yards, but he did salvage his day in the receiving area with a touchdown. 3 receptions also not bad. 3 receptions, 10 yards on 4 targets, but that touchdown is really what brought his fantasy value up for the week. But nothing, I don't know, something we're going to have to see play out. Obviously, game script kind of played into it, who they're facing, that sort of thing. So nothing crazy, but saved his day if you started him.
Yeah, for sure.
Guys, moving down to New Orleans. A game that I didn't watch a bunch of, but even the score was only 16-15, but I thought it was like a really good game to watch. It was pretty interesting.
It was fun to see Derek Carr, guys. He was slinging the ball around.
Like we said.
Rashid Shaheed stepped up. Chris Olave obviously had a great game, something you expect to see from him. And even Michael Thomas.
Yep.
He led the wide receivers in snap share at 80%, 52 of the total snaps. So I think we can see him be a great wide receiver too in this year.
Yeah.
Honestly. Chris Olave obviously is still the alpha there, but Michael Thomas is a close second.
Yeah. Michael Thomas is just another guy. He had that all-pro season, and then it's like you just want to see him healthy again. It's one of those guys you just want to see him on the field. So really happy to see that. Was second with 8 targets, Olave with 10, Shaheed with 6. Shaheed obviously got the touchdown, guys, boosted his day, but even if he didn't, he still had 5 receptions, 89 yards, 2 rushes for 11 yards also. So you're going to see him used, kind of someone we label as a gadget guy, just a speedster. So I'm encouraged with that Saints receiving core and Derek Carr. Guys, if you need a quarterback, Derek Carr is certainly a viable option if he's still on waivers. If you like rostering 2 quarterbacks, I would certainly go after Derek Carr.
Derek Carr, I swear, is slept on.
Yeah.
Throughout so much of his career, and then like halfway through the season, people were like, "Wait, is this guy legit?" And then, and then we hit the Matrix, or someone from Men in Black comes and hits that pen, and then everyone forgets everything that happened the season before. Like he's not a bad quarterback, honestly. He's really not.
I always liked Derek Carr. But
gonna be cool to see when Kamara comes back too.
Because Jamal Williams is buns.
I mean, he's got that short yardage. Like every single short yardage play he gets,
sure.
Like he specializes in that. But once Kamara's there for the open field type of stuff, with these receivers, with Derek Carr playing well, and the defense looking good, Juwan Johnson, someone to mention too. He was productive.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually really like this New Orleans team. Like just in game, like he looked like was very.
No,
good.
he's a good tight end.
Yeah,
for sure. He's actually a converted wide receiver out of college. But yeah, guys, Juwan Johnson's another guy who I think if you're, later in the season, if your tight end is on bye or hurt or something, he's a guy you could certainly stream. Hope for a touchdown, but also you're gonna see solid production out of him. He had three receptions for 36 yards, so obviously modest production this week. 5 targets though. I think we are gonna see him behind those 3 top receivers. But to see Taysom Hill only get 1 target and 3 carries, I think is very encouraging for Jawan Johnson.
Yeah,
I thi-
Taysom Hill's target was wild too.
Was it? I didn't even see
It
it.
was like back of the end zone, back corner of the end zone. I think Carr was just kind of throwing it away, but he jumped in like dove for it in classic Taysom Hill fashion.
Glad he didn't catch it. Guys, I'm a bona fide Taysom Hill hater. I'll come out and say that. I'm a big Kamara guy, so you probably understand why.
I hold up the Taysom Hill spirit.
Yeah, this
around
guy
here.
loves Taysom Hill. So moving to Tennessee side of things, guys, not a great game from Ryan Tannehill. 3 picks, no touchdowns, low yardage output. Gonna be interesting to see. Only ran the ball 3 times for 5 yards. Saints defense is good though, so that again something I'm not putting too much of a label on. Week 1, a very good defense in New Orleans. Tannehill's. We'll have to see how it plays out. Derrick Henry though, 15 carries, 63 yards, not a huge output. Would have expected in a low-scoring game to see more rushes out of him.
This was actually something that was pretty concerning and something that regards the waiver wires. Tajay Spears actually outsnapped him 34-30 in this game and saw a lot of third down work, which Derrick Henry will not be the guy that he has been as a every single down back.
Right.
I mean, he's 30 years old.
Yeah.
They can't just keep running him to the ground. I think they want to preserve some of that for later in the season or even just to keep him healthy, And Tajay Spears could be a decent waiver wire pickup if you're low at running back. And if Derrick Henry were to go down, this guy obviously steps up as one of the better, handcuffs that we have in the league. And with that receiving role, does have a little bit of standalone value. However, he's got Ryan Bunzahill throwing to him, so
Bunzahill right now. He'll have to redeem himself next week.
I mean, he's been questioned.
Yeah. So one thing I want to say about Derrick Henry that is encouraging though, even though 3 targets, 2 receptions, the guys had 1 for 46 yards and 1 for 10 yards, so definitely saved his day through that. And obviously, if Derrick Henry scores a touchdown this week, we're saying something totally different.
Right.
So
you're still fine.
Yeah,
with Derrick
like
Henry,
we're not super concerned with Derrick Henry. You just might not see the absolute output that we're used to. Again, week 1, guys, you don't want to start saying trends and stuff until about week 3 or 4. You get a better idea of what a team is trying to establish. But on receiving side of things, D-Hop, the guy we all thought, the guy that you and I know he is.
peppered with targets.
13 targets, guys.
Yeah.
13 of 33 targets. So
It's great. It's just terrible that the person throwing it to him can't get it to him.
So, guys, 7 receptions, 65 yards. Not huge, but 13 targets, guys. I mean, we were saying this all offseason. Like, Hopkins is gonna be that guy for this offense. He's gonna get looks. He's gonna be that alpha, undoubtedly. One thing I want to point out: Traylon Burks has only 3 targets, 2 receptions for 18 yards. So that's interesting. Again, something we'll have to keep an eye on. Chigo Okonkwo, guys, unfortunately, 2 targets the entire game, no receptions. So, unfortunate output there. Something we got to look for. Tajay Spears did get 4 targets, as Carter was saying, guys. Can be that standalone guy, only 1 reception, but different weeks we'll see different types of outputs. But 4 targets certainly encouraging as that third down back.
Standalone value is kind of a stretch, but
Right now, yeah.
I'm gonna take a little bit of a step back. I'm gonna say stand with value. And something to mention with Traylon Burks, 90% snap share. So
yeah,
he's on the field, guys. I think that he has some talent. Obviously got injured his rookie year, but I think that he can step up this year and really service DeAndre Hopkins as that wide receiver too. Obviously, Hopkins is going to get all the targets, but
13 targets.
Yeah.
That's crazy. A guy that you and I both believe is still just uber talented.
Yeah. The next game, I mean, I don't think we had to talk too much about. Maybe just bring up the fact that if you guys want to pick up Brock Purdy, I actually have no problem with that. Yeah. I think he's a great waiver wire ad.
Right.
I mean, he has been absolutely explosive when he plays. A guy that it's not like he's throwing for 1 touchdown. Like, he usually gets 2 touchdowns. Right. You can expect that out of Purdy at this point. And 3 is definitely not out of his comfort zone, I guess you could say.
Right. One injury note is Deontay Johnson went down really awkwardly with his leg.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. Did they come out and say what that was?
It was a hamstring.
Hamstrings?
Yeah. He's going to be out for some time.
Like crazy. So, yeah, guys, that was scary when it happened. Just a hamstring, though. Have to see how that really affects him. Guys, something notable though from the Pittsburgh receiving area was Allen Robinson. 8 targets, guys, 5 receptions, 64 yards. A guy that I think a lot of us have counted out, and not even he was the last pick in our draft actually by a Steelers fan. So something to keep an eye on certainly. George Pickens was right behind him with 7. Deontay Johnson, Calvin Austin both had 6 guys in terms of targets. So something to keep an eye on. Allen Robinson could be a great safety valve for Kenny Pickett. That Steelers, it just wasn't a pretty game though.
Right. Yeah, they got absolutely waxed.
Yeah, they got to hand it to him. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously the running game was awful. Najee and Jalen Warren both didn't do anything. Najee did have a 5.2 average, but only 6 carries. Obviously a negative game script the whole game. That doesn't help. But San Fran side of things, 2 guys I think we're gonna highlight. Maybe get into Deebo Samuel a little bit, but McCaffrey went off, dude.
Yeah, you can start him every week.
Yeah, 22 carries, 152 yards, a touchdown, guys. I don't know if you did not see that super long 65-yard touchdown, go watch that. Great, just like team blocking movement by McCaffrey. Just it was poetry in motion.
It really was.
And then I want to move straight into my guy, Brandon Ayuk. 8 receptions on 8 targets, 129 yards, and 2 touchdowns, guys. A stud.
Yeah.
He's a stud.
Dude, how many points?
It was 32.
32 points.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, dude, he's a baller. I mean,
I think he's Purdy's favorite target too. I mean,
you
Deebo.
saw it at the end of last year.
Yeah, Deebo has been improved. You see, he's been pissed off about the offseason, working on his body and whatnot. But, I mean, Ayuk's the guy there, in my opinion.
I mean, Deebo put up a fairly solid game. Obviously, you hope for a little more, guys. But 7 targets, 5 receptions, 55 yards, 2 rushes for 8 yards. You know, you're looking at 11 points. So, not terrible. Hope for a little more. Obviously, Deebo's going to find the end zone, you know, sometime.
Yeah.
So, I'm not like, worried about Deebo at all. I think he's going to have a fine season. Someone I was pretty high on. I liked him at his ADP. I'm not worried about him at all.
I heard this stat. When he finished as the wide receiver 2 years ago, he had 1 touchdown for every 9 handles of the ball. What is it?
Yeah,
touches? Yeah. Okay,
That's
so
crazy.
1 for every 9. And then last year, it was 1 for every 19.
Yeah.
So I think we can see somewhere around.
Middle ground.
Yeah, it's going to convert.
1 for 14, 1 for 15.
Yeah. One other thing to add in this game, Najee and Jalen Warren with a very close split. I would be a little bit concerned if I was you as a Najee owner, or just if you were anyone else as a Najee owner. Jalen Warren is explosive, and Najee has that role solidified. I don't think he steps down as the running back 1. Probably will see most of the valuable touches as well. Obviously a great receiver, but Jalen Warren is really stepping up as someone that's going to be integral in this offense as well.
All right, so like we'll probably see Warren like in this situation where there was such a negative game script. Jalen Warren, guys, 6 targets, 5 receptions, only 12 yards. That Niners defense is just swarming though, so you know it'll be interesting. Like you said, obviously a closer snap count than you would like, but Warren getting those passing downs, that probably pretty valuable for his role. George Kittle will take note of this. Only 3 receptions for 19 yards on 6 targets. It'll be interesting to see how his year plays out. He was very touchdown dependent last year, so if you're a Kittle owner, guys, you're definitely looking for that. It'll be interesting on a week-to-week basis. This is one that just kind of got out of hand from the start, so
yeah, we're good on this game.
Yeah, moving. I don't even want to talk about this next game, just as a fan. Arizona and the Commanders, guys.
The Commanders of Washington.
It was an awful game. Guys. You can talk. Yeah, I'll let you talk.
Guys, the Commanders are just going to commander their way through the season, and whether that ends up being above 500 or below 500, we'll just wait to see. Obviously, a team with high expectations, Bieniemy in as the offensive coordinator, but Arizona's defense stepped up in a way I don't think any of us expected them to. And yeah, Antonio Gibson, not a great game. Bijan Robinson had that touchdown reception.
Robinson.
Yeah, Brian Robinson.
I wish we had Bijan.
Brian Robinson had that touchdown that kind of saved his fantasy week. So
weird game from the receiving side on Washington too.
I'm not too happy about having guys on either side of that team. I don't really want any player on either of those teams, to be honest.
Yeah, guys. No one put out a crazy output. Terry McLaurin, very disappointing. 2 receptions for 31 yards, only 4 targets. Dotson and Samuel both had 5 receptions. No crazy output from anyone. I don't even want to talk about this anymore. James Conner with a pedestrian game had 5 receptions but only 8 yards. Nothing notable in the receiving area for Arizona, although Zach Ertz saw 10 targets but only 6 receptions for 21 yards.
Guys, I don't care. I'm telling you.
10 targets is big.
Ertz is the
That's
guy
big.
I'm going to get 10 targets for a tight end. I don't even think you can name another tight end that got 10 targets this week.
I can't.
He probably got the most out of every single tight end, and this is a guy that is still most likely on your waiver wire.
Yeah.
I mean, go pick him
Big
up,
waiver wire ad.
please.
Okay, yeah, guys, just bad output from both teams.
He's probably my waiver wire out of the week.
I'm
And if this game didn't confirm that, like, this is something that I'm not overreacting to because of the fact
Yeah.
that he does it consistently. Like,
I would agree.
the thing is, he's coming back from injury. Can he be the guy he's always been? The answer is
Yes.
yes so far, and I expect a yes in the future. So,
Yeah, guys.
my waiver wire out of the week.
Okay, enough of that game. Enough of that. Enough of that. Cardinals waiver wire of the week, guys.
You guys still won.
Zach
so
Ertz. Zach Ertz. I'll reiterate that for you guys. Moving away from that game.
James Conner had an oddly efficient.
Moving away from that game, right into the Ravens and the Texans, guys. Another game that was just really weird to watch. Neither side was good. Lamar, 17 for 22, high completion percentage, only 169 yards with an interception and a fumble. Not a good output from him. 6 carries for only 38 yards. Again, J.K. Dobbins, Achilles, very disappointing. But Gus Edwards, guys, go pick him up if he's on your waiver wire.
Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. I've already had Gus Edwards stashed because J.K. Dobbins is such a guy that
high
just
risk guy.
unfortunate
obviously.
career, honestly.
Yeah,
Sad
uber
career.
talented when he plays, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
Justice Hill did get the 2 touchdowns.
yeah,
I don't think we had to worry too much about that. It's going to be mostly a split between
mean-
Edwards and Hill, and Edwards is mad efficient. He just
Yes,
hasn't
always.
really ever gotten a healthy run at the
Right.
lead role. Melvin Gordon upgraded, so we'll see what happens there. We mentioned
that'd be
earlier
interesting.
that they could pick up Kareem Hunt, they could pick up Fournette,
Leonard
or they could
trade
even try
for-
to trade for Jonathan Taylor, which would be mad.
Yeah, that would be insane. So, guys, moving to the receivers. Lamar Jackson, guys, only 169 yards on the day, like I said, but Zay Flowers, dude, was a beast.
Dude,
9 receptions for
yeah.
78 yards, guys, on 10 targets. The next closest guys had 3: Odell, Rashad, and J.K. Dobbins. Obviously, Mark Andrews did not play, guys. So that'll eat into Zay Flowers' target share a little bit, but dude, he's a beast.
He looked
Like,
electric.
yeah. So
Yeah.
if you're a Zay Flowers owner, I would consider flexing him from here on out. This is another one that I'm not even gonna say this is an overreaction at all. Like, he looked good, dude. Shifty, knows how to get open, find the soft spots. Very talented guys. So I mean, you can tell the way I'm talking about him right now. Very ecstatic about him. The only guy I would consider putting in your lineup at the Baltimore receiving core. Obviously, when Mark Andrews gets back, he's in your lineup, no doubt.
Zay Flowers, 84% of snaps, right behind Odell
Yeah.
at 92. So, as a rookie, getting 84% of snaps, he's clearly the wide receiver 2 there.
Yeah, great stuff from him. Moving to Houston's side of things, guys. CJ Stroud, pedestrian day, 242 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Good he didn't turn the ball over. Kind of expected this sort of game from CJ. Going against the Ravens defense in your first game is not going to be easy ever. Happy for him to have a solid debut. Nothing to brag about, certainly, but, he'll improve upon it throughout the season. Guys, my bust of the week at running back was Dameon Pierce. Put up 11 carries for 38 yards and 2 receptions for 9 yards, guys. So very pedestrian day from him. From this offense overall, one guy I do want to highlight, my boy Nico Collins. 11 targets, guys, an absolute target hog. Him and Robert Woods really paced that team with 11 and 10 respectively. Nico Collins, 6 receptions for 80 yards, guys. Woods, 6 receptions for 57 yards. I would not shy away from adding Robert Woods potentially. I'm not going to say he's a super high priority waiver wire, but I think, he's a veteran guy, which is always good for a rookie quarterback. So I have no issue with adding him on, as the last guy on your bench, let's say. But Nico Collins, guys, that's a very encouraging game from him, what we wanted to see week 1. Obviously, John Mechie was out. That'll be something to watch. But nothing else real notable. Tank Dell, only 3 receptions for 34 yards. So that wraps up that game. Moving into one of our most interesting games, I would say, for us too, a game that we were really looking at. We weren't sure of how it would play out. Was looking forward to watching both teams, but ended up being a blowout. Packers-Bears, guys.
Yeah.
Ownership did not change.
This is a big waiver wire game for me. I think that you can add Jordan Love and be pretty safe with it. 3 touchdowns in that game. And I think you could also add Romeo Doubs to that list.
He should be on your team already.
Rostered in 5% of NFL.com leagues,
serious?
guys. 5%. Yeah, Romeo Doubs. And it's been unsure whether or not he would be a strong wide receiver. Obviously Christian Watson had such a great season last year, or towards the end had a great season. It's just crazy how Romeo Doubs is seen as the best wide receiver. Obviously his favorite target, Jordan Love's favorite target in the postseason. And to watch him progress, live up to that. 5 targets, tied for the lead with Jalen Reed.
Yeah.
And that's almost a fourth of his targets. Romeo Doubs is someone that is still on your waiver wire and has a clear shot at being the number 1 receiver there. I think Christian Watson's going to be the downfield guy for sure. But,
Doubs is going to be he's going to get targets. We said that he's going to be the possession guy. He's going to be the volume guy, let's say.
Yeah.
So one notable thing, Aaron Jones, guys, big day in terms of production, was highly efficient with his touches, 2 touchdowns, 41 yards on the ground, 86 through the air on only 2 receptions. A guy that we've known to be highly efficient, but left the game on that touchdown with a hamstring injury. Going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Obviously, A.J. Dillon, guys, gets a huge boost in your lineup if Aaron Jones is out. Something definitely to watch for. Nothing real big in the passing game. Jaden Reed, 2 receptions, 48 yards. Musgrave, 3 receptions for 80 yards with 3 receptions for 50 yards on 4 targets. So, good from tight end perspective of things. Nothing crazy, but nonetheless, something good to see that he's being used. Moving to the Bears side, dude, lot to break down on a bad game. Fields did not look good passing the ball again, guys. 216 yards, a touchdown, and an interception, and fumbled the ball. So him and Lamar Jackson are on the same sort of wave. Unfortunately, 2 studs that we thought would be great started out slow out the gates.
Justin Fields still has not stepped up as that guy that sells me, honestly. I think that he still has the upside to be a number 1 quarterback. His rush potential is crazy.
Right, saved his day with 59 yards on the ground.
Yeah, you saw him just shaking dudes in the backfield and getting 5-yard gains out of it.
He's just got to develop as that passer. That's what it is.
And you have to be a good passer to remain relevant as a quarterback, because turns out that quarterbacks still do have to pass the ball in this league.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
You just want to see it from Justin Fields. Everyone wants to see it all come together, and that will help out DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney as well. If he can put it together, guys, we'll see.
So, and then a big thing, guys, the backfield for Chicago, I don't want to put too much stock in for this game because big negative game script the whole game. So,
Roschon, though.
7
targets.
5 carries for 20 yards and a touchdown. 7 targets, 6 receptions for 35 yards, guys. Looks like we're going to see a good split from those 2, and Deontay Foreman back on the squad, got 5 carries and also 2 receptions. So all 3 of those backs were used, guys. If you got Roschon Johnson, obviously you're getting greater value than drafting Khalil Herbert, where he was going in drafts. 2 guys I'm going to point out. So Darnell Mooney, guys, another guy who was right next to Dobbs in terms of ADP. 2 guys that we were telling you go get as the last pick on your roster. Darnell Mooney, guys, 4 receptions, 53 yards, touchdown, 7 targets. Good stuff out of him. DJ Moore, only 2 targets, guys. 2 receptions, 25 yards. Very disappointing output. A guy that I was personally very high on. Hopefully we can see him, be the electric guy we know him to be next week and throughout the rest of this season. Just very disappointing to only see. You would think coming out of the gates that that'd be a guy that they would try to use, get the ball in his hands for sure.
Yeah,
there's no excuse for him to have two targets.
Yeah, they gotta change that.
You gotta use him.
Right. They gave up a first-round pick for him.
They gave up the number 1 pick for him.
Yeah. So the best first-round pick.
Right. So, and then Cole Kmet, guys, just to take note, 5 receptions, 44 yards, and 7 targets. So that's again, at the tight end spot, that's what you want. You want targets, solid receptions. You can't ask for much more out of a guy like that. That's all for that game, guys.
I think you can go ahead and look at Roschon Johnson as a pickup. 1.1% rostered in NFL.com league. So
I don't see any reason not to pick him up. If you're rostering 2 kickers, 2 defenses, or like 3 tight ends or something, go drop one of them. Go pick up a running back like Roschon Johnson, Tyjae Spears, one of those high-end handcuffs. Roschon Johnson, guys, like we just said, is a guy we already saw getting solid volume. So
yeah,
very encouraging for him.
Most of it did come later in the game.
Right. But
as they were down.
Something we'll have to see play out throughout the season.
Yeah, if you produce in the league, you get more opportunities.
So. Right. Absolutely. So, guys, moving to Denver. Las Vegas, guys. They should still beat Oakland.
They should.
That pisses me off.
Chargers should still beat San Diego as well.
Yes, they should. So, guys, the Raiders came into Mile High, playing Denver. Got the W, actually 17-16. Starting off with Jimmy G, 20 for 26, 200 yards on the dot, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. A basic Jimmy G stat line. If you would have told me to tell you a Jimmy G stat line, that's about where I would have put him at. So nothing crazy, guys. Unfortunately, Josh Jacobs did not have a great output today. Not today, yesterday. 2.5 yards per carry on the ground, guys. 48 yards. Do the math. You'll get the rushes. 2 receptions for 23 yards. So not a big day for him at all. Big day for Jacoby Myers. He's a guy that's in concussion protocol. Hoping for him to have a good recovery. Big hit. I've watched it live. Very scary. One of those moments where you're thinking, oh, crap. It's just, I hate seeing stuff like that. Just hate it. But 9 receptions, 81 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Actually paced them in receptions, yardage, and targets, guys. Now they have Devontae Adams, who is obviously going to take over that receiving room. Still had a good day, 6 receptions, 66 yards. So those 2 guys were big. Notable, Hunter Renfrow did not see a single target, not even in the stat sheet. A guy we pose as a big sleeper, but I would expect to see some sort of production out of him, guys. There's no way he's just totally out of it.
Yeah, someone that I'm going to hold on to just because, but
yes, thank you for
as
reiterating
the season
that.
Wears on.
Definitely, if he doesn't produce, there's no issue in dropping him.
Yeah, I mean, there really isn't. Jacoby Myers is concussed, so.
Yeah.
I mean, we could see a couple games that.
That's not funny, guys. It's just the way you said it.
Where Hunter Renfrow does step up as,
right.
Someone that you can play. I'm hoping that that slot role is super valuable for Jimmy G.
Right. So you'd think you'd see some higher totals later in the season.
Exactly.
Moving to Denver side of thing, guys. A lot of low passing outputs this week. Russell Wilson, guys, only 177 yards. Had 2 touchdowns, no picks. So
absolutely miserable, dude.
I think as the season goes on, we'll see the Sean Payton scheme take hold, solidify itself, and really see higher outputs. So I'm not totally bailing on it already. I think it's going to be solid. He had a good completion percentage too.
Just thinking a good matchup.
I know, yeah, because we did say this would be something that we're kind of expecting a big, coming out party against an awful Raiders defense. But guys, a big development. Javonte Williams, 13 carries for 52 yards, so had a 4 yards per carry average, which isn't awful, and also saw 6 targets. So actually paced the team in targets, guys. Only had 4 receptions for 5 yards though. But that's I'm ecstatic if I'm a Javonte Williams owner. 13 carries and 6 targets on 4 receptions. We thought he would have some limitation. Obviously, we warned you guys going into our Sunday preview. Javonte Williams was said by Sean Payton expected to have a big role in the offense, and we see that here. So very good for him.
But then he went back on it. But then he actually went back again and gave him a big role.
Gave him a big role, yeah.
Guys, just don't listen to that guy. I don't know.
The only notable receiver really, Cortland Sutton, guys, 4 receptions, 32 yards, got the touchdown. Obviously, the touchdown saved his day. Was tied for second with 5 targets. So Sutton, as long as Judy's out, and even with Judy back in, could open up that offense. Could be a thing where we see really benefit both receivers to have both of them in, because without him, you're not, as a defense, you can just focus on Sutton versus the other guys.
Right.
But that's wrapping up the Denver-Las Vegas game. Going over to another interesting game where the guy we thought would have a big output did not, and vice versa. So the Eagles-Patriots, guys, the Eagles squeaked it out 25-20. I don't know did you watch the very last play of that game for the Patriots?
Yeah, Kendrick Bourne almost got that, guys.
Yeah.
I thought it was in at first.
Only got one foot. It was actually Keyshawn Booty, actually, not Kendrick Bourne.
Okay.
With the catch, but nonetheless.
That's what I said.
Yeah, that's what he said, guys. Mac Jones, though, I mean, obviously we saw 54 attempts, but 316 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick, guys. Kind of in line with what we were saying with hoping Bill O'Brien would really bring back a more open offense for him, like we saw with him at Alabama. So encouraging development for Mac Jones, certainly. You're not going to see 54 attempts week in and week out. That's sort of an anomaly. But even then, just seeing that output is very encouraging. Not a guy that really I'm looking to pick up on waivers, but if you need a spot start in a bye week or an injury down the road, not opposed to starting him, especially if he has a soft matchup.
Yeah, someone worth mentioning, though, for the waiver wires is Kenneth Gainwell.
Yes.
He had a
Love
great
me some Kenny.
62% of the snaps and most of the opportunities out of that backfield as well. Could be the new Miles Sanders.
Whew. Yeah, 14 carries, dude, and Swift and Boston Scott only had 2 combined.
Yeah, Gainwell's someone that just has such high touchdown upside throughout his career.
Yeah,
they use him at the goal line all the time.
Even though he's only like 5'8".
Yeah. And now if he can solidify that role that he just got.
I'd love to see that.
I mean, as the season wears on, I expect DeAndre Swift to get more than 30% of the snaps.
There's no way he only gets 2 touches in a game.
Yeah.
That's insane.
That should go up.
Like, even though we know him to be so injury prone, like when he gets the ball, like he's talented. He's a good player. It's just not being injured is the issue. But yeah, there's no way that keeps up. I just think they were trying to go with comfort here.
Mm-hmm.
Kenneth Gainwell's familiar, his 3rd season, guys. But a good thing if you drafted Gainwell late in your draft.
DeAndre Swift owners. Oof. Man, I would not want to be in that position.
We warned shares.
We
warned you.
Good luck. Good thing I have 0 shares of DeAndre Swift because just a weird player in my opinion. Someone that I don't want to put my faith in to carry my team in any week.
So, guys, moving to the receiving side of things for Philadelphia, notable Dallas Goedert 1 target. Nothing on the stat line. So really weird to see. Certainly something, guys. Do not overreact to that. Keep him in your lineup. He's gonna produce. Dallas Goedert is a great tight end. Just unfortunate to see that. Really odd, but AJ Brown and Devontae Smith both paced the team for 10 targets, guys. Both had 7 receptions. AJ Brown more efficient with his receptions with 79 yards. Devontae Smith only 47, but Smith saw the touchdown, so was certainly the beneficiary of that. Gainwell with 4 receptions, guys, so paced that backfield in just about anything and everything. Moving to the Patriots side of thing, already covered Mac Jones. Rushing, Zeke saw 7 carries to Ramondre's 12, so still good for Ramondre, but Ramondre was not very efficient with only 25 yards. No rushing touchdowns for them, but receiving-wise, Ramondre saw 6 receptions for 64 yards on 6 targets, so that's obviously what we want to see out of Ramondre. Another waiver wire, guys, to watch out for is Kendrick Bourne. Big week. 11 targets, guys. 11 targets, 6 receptions, 64 yards, 2 touchdowns. Obviously, the touchdowns aren't going to be that week in and week out. But nonetheless, guys, 11 targets is something certainly encouraging. 6 receptions, 64 yards again. A guy, that's just really encouraging to see. it is kind of questionable with Devontae Parker out. Who's going to be that number one guy? Juju did not have a great output. Did see 7 targets, but only 4 receptions for 33 yards, guys. One notable thing is Hunter Henry, your bust at tight end for the week. He had 5 receptions, guys, 56 yards, and a touchdown.
Man, if he didn't come back just to prove me wrong,
just
man.
To bite you in the
No
ass.
one's thinking about Hunter Henry. I always think about Hunter Henry. And guess what? I shouldn't have, because I was like, oh, people are probably thinking about Hunter Henry. No one was. And I told you not to start him.
I literally said when we were doing that, I was like, dude, Hunter Henry doesn't even count. Like, no one's dropped.
Oh, my gosh. Are we looking at the Chargers game now?
Looking at the Chargers game.
Honestly, I'll just take this one.
Moral victory, right?
I'll just take this one. As a Chargers fan watching that game, I'll just bring it from a holistic perspective. I'm not even mad about it. Like, that placement that Tua has is actually
beautiful.
Crazy. The amount of times that he just predicted where Tyreek would be. He just threw it into open spaces on the, like, he has that 3-step drop. So it's like the top of they call it the top of the drop. So
I like that.
Yeah, he was getting it out quick. So Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, they had no impact on what Tua was doing. And that's because he was just throwing to where he knew Tyreek and Jalen Waddle would get to.
Right.
If he sees a little gap in the zone, he just throws it there and they get there. I mean,
it's crazy.
It's actually pretty unstoppable. Tua was an MVP candidate
Right.
before he got injured last year. So, I mean, I don't know why we didn't expect more of it. He probably should have been drafted up there with Herbert, Lawrence, Burrow, up with them. I think he's
466 yards and 3 touchdowns, dude. Didn't have the pick, but screw that.
You don't expect this every week out of Miami. Mostert did have a good game. He was seen in the receiving and the rushing game. He did pretty well. Obviously got that touchdown, which really helped him out that week. And Ahmed was kind of the second guy there. I think A-Chain steps up a little bit as the week goes in. I don't think there's any notable waiver wire ads on the Miami side, but on the Chargers side, if Joshua Kelly's
Josh Kelly
in your league,
scoop him up ASAP.
Yeah, scoop him up, because the way that this offense is going to get run, it's a much more run-heavy offense. And Kellen Moore, as we saw last year with Zeke and Tony Pollard, he likes running with 2. Actually, for multiple years, honestly.
Yeah.
He likes running with 2 running backs. And Joshua Kelly is going to see valuable touches, did get goal line work, and did get a touchdown. So,
dude, very cool to see, like, Eckler and Kelly both. Kelly rushed for 5.7 yards a carry, and Eckler was 7.3. I've never seen that out of the Chargers.
Yeah, it was really fun,
really cool.
dude. I actually really like that going into the season. And honestly, losing to Miami, dude, we just get a little smack in the face, but it's 0-1.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anyone's too worried about it.
We knew it would be a close game.
Yeah, amazing team. And we had a chance to close it out. 4th down and 5. We ended up kicking it. But, after well, okay, that was towards the end of the game, but I'm talking goal line. We're up 1.
Oh, yeah.
And we just didn't convert there, but Miami played great on defense when they needed to. Vic Fangio with those calls on that late drive. I mean, we had that throwaway. That was a little bit tragic, setting us back a little bit with Herbert.
You talking about the intentional grounding?
Yeah, the intentional grounding. And then, I'm not mad about it at all. I think it was a great fantasy output. Mike Williams did go out in the game, and it remains to be seen what really happens with Mike Williams. If you can get Quentin Johnson, I don't think he's probably on your waiver wire, but if he is, definitely pick up Quentin Johnston, because he looked decent in the chances he got. I mean, nothing crazy out of him, but
only 2 receptions. But
Keenan
Allen, guys, had a very solid game. Exactly what we're used to. 9 targets, 6 receptions, 76 yards. Everything we expect out of him. I will touch on Miami's receiving. Guys, I don't even know if I have to mention Tyreek. If you play fantasy football, you know exactly what he did yesterday. And I'm sure if you played against him, you don't want to hear me talk about him. So it's self-explanatory what he did. He dropped a nuke.
He's on track for over 3,000 yards this season, guys. So try to pick him up if he's on your waiver wire.
Yeah, if he's on your waiver wire, guys. My waiver wire pickup of the week, Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
Jalen Waddle, though, kind of notable, was tied for 3rd in terms of targets. Our boy Durham Smythe was second in targets. But guys, Jalen Waddle, 4 receptions, 78 yards. So a guy who kind of, like, even if he doesn't see the receptions you want or the targets, just so efficient
Yeah.
that he's still going to rack up the yardage and kind of salvage your day. 11.8 points. Obviously, we expect more out of
I
him.
think that's a great way to put it.
But
he's a little less volume, obviously, than Tyreek Hill, but last year we saw him at 75 receptions and still ended up as a wide
1,300
receiver
yards.
8.
Yeah,
so
crazy. So
he doesn't need it.
he doesn't necessarily need it. Obviously, like if he scores a touchdown, you're looking at a 17-point output. So you got to take it where you can get it. Jalen Waddle, guys, not a great day, but a uber efficient day nonetheless. Moving to Seattle, guys. I'm gonna start out by saying I was totally wrong on this game. I predicted it the exact opposite way around. I said it would be a blowout by Seattle. Blowout by the Rams. I don't know what Seattle was doing. They did not look good in anything they were attempting to do. Playing from negative game script obviously hurt them because Kenneth Walker was efficient. 12 carries, 64 yards, guys. Over 5 yards a carry, but only 12 carries because they were down the whole game trying to pass. But even then, Geno Smith only had 26 attempts, so they just were not it just looked way out of sync.
Yeah, I have a couple of shares of Geno Smith, and I'm kind of struggling right now with what to think about it. I mean, this was a matchup that we thought was going to be great. They brought in Jackson Smith and Jigba. You thought that this is going to really even up him to the next level.
Yeah.
All the quarterbacks that got paid this year stunk in the beginning week, so I actually don't mind it too much. Herbert was the one saving grace in that group of guys. But, yeah, guys, Geno he just decided to leave the game. Yeah, they just left the match at halftime. I think they had 13 yards in the whole second half. So
crazy. Yeah. I mean,
absolute blowout.
DK is the one bright spot. Burned me. But DK, guys, 3 receptions, 47 yards, and a touchdown on 5 targets, pace the team and everything. So, good to see that out of DK. I like to see him do well. I just think he's a bit volatile as a receiver. But, good game out of him. Tyler Lockett, guys, 2 receptions for 10 yards. JSN, 3 receptions for 13. So really nothing encouraging there.
I want to mention this. Kyren Williams, 53 of the 81 snaps, saw a lot of the goal line work as well. 2 touchdowns before Cam Akers even got his 1, which came at the blowout time. Akers did pace him in run, so if you want to sell high on that, for people that aren't aware of the snap share and how tragic this actually is for Cam Akers owners, try to go ahead and do that because he had 22 touches to Kyren Williams 15, but Kyren Williams saw all the third down work, goal line work, and just looked way more efficient. Cam Akers was extremely awful.
1.3 yards per carry.
Yeah, 20.
I'll let you do the math.
22 carries and 29 yards.
There
so, I mean, he was not great.
No.
Not great at all. Honestly, Cam Akers owners beware. Kyren Williams, try to go pick him up.
I'll make that my waiver wire pickup of the week. Kyren Williams, guys, my actual waiver wire.
Tyler Higbee, though, if he's on the waivers,
woo!
Oh my gosh.
Yep, 3 receptions, 49 yards, had a big catch there. Just a guy you're gonna see kind of have a solid floor week in and week out. Guys, 2 guys I want to highlight. No, okay, I'm actually gonna give you guys my waiver wire pickup of the week. Puka Nacua, guys. I was talking about him all off season. I'm so hyped right now.
It's funny because everyone in the fantasy space is now talking about Puka Nacua, and they're like, "Oh, now we're saying names like Puka Nacua. Like, who is that?"
Yeah.
And Tutu Atwell, like, bro,
who was giving it to you?
You've been on that.
Who was giving it to you?
You've been on that.
How many targets? 15 targets. How many receptions? 10 receptions. How many yards? 119.
As a Cooper Kupp owner, I'm glad to know that production is still out there to be had. And once the Cooper Kupp comes back, it will be his. But, dude, Puka Nacua could carry you
15 targets.
I mean, if he gets anything
Holy cow.
resembling the Cooper Kupp role, like, he's automatically a wide receiver 1. No joke. Like, Matthew Stafford just loves slinging it to his guys.
Slinging it.
So,
but Tutu Atwell was also notable. 6 receptions, and he still had 119 yards. So, another notable guy, but guys, Puka Nacua. I'm giving it to you. Van Jefferson, only 4 receptions, 24 yards on 5 targets. Nacua tripled his targets. I'm so hyped, guys. Puka Nacua, my guy, backing me up, making me look good. Oh gosh, did we even talk about this next game?
Yeah.
I mean, I know we do, but like,
well, is there any notable waiver wires? I don't really think there is. Dallas defense is everything they were supposed to be.
Everything and more.
I don't want to overreact to this game too much because I still don't like the Dallas Cowboys season long. But watching that defense, that's actually a little bit hard to say now. obviously a great defense, but guys, I mean, the Giants just looked in
Awful.
complete disarray. You saw the way it started
Clueless.
off. It just looked like a absolutely baffled team. Darren Waller was the best receiver they had,
The
and he
lone bright
had,
spot.
I think, 3
3
receptions.
36 yards, yeah, on 5 targets.
Which is promising. I have Darren Waller in my league of records, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, I mean,
for the most part, guys, if you're a Giants fan, if you're an owner of Giants players, you're a little bit saddened, but I think they're kind of exactly where they started the season.
Stick it out, guys.
I don't think anything changed fantasy-wise.
No.
The only thing to talk about, honestly, was this defense. Like, how good it was. Because Tony Pollard's going to be a beast.
Yeah, he still. So that's one thing I want to note, guys, with this Dallas offense. I wouldn't be too down if you're a Dak owner or like a CD or Brandon Cooks owner. Guys, they weren't going to pass the ball. Their first 2 scores were from a blocked field goal, return for a touchdown, and a pick 6. Like, if you're up 14-0 and then dominating on defense, you're not going to pass the ball. You're just going to, run the ball and run the clock out. So, Pollard still got his 14 carries for 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, great day if you're a Pollard owner. But CD, guys, had a similar game to Waddle, 4 receptions, 77 yards. So, a guy that can get it done in terms of being that efficient receiver, and he's the number 1 in that offense. So, I'm not concerned about CD or even Brandon Cooks. It's going to be interesting when we see a tighter game, like we might see if Aaron Rodgers is hurt right now. Watching the Monday Night Football game, but against the Jets next week, going to be interesting. So I'm not worried about that Dallas offense. Obviously, Tony Pollard is certainly the bright spot.
Yeah, if we're looking ahead to next week, I wouldn't really be too high on Dallas going up against this Jets defense.
It's going to be an interesting game to watch for sure, to say the least.
So I guess we can even just talk about this game because it's about to go into overtime, and you might as well just talk about it now. Aaron Rodgers out, guys. I'm not recommending to pick up Zach Wilson or anything. In my league of record, I got Geno Smith and Aaron Rodgers looking abysmal right now. I'm kind of shooting for the stars here. Might even go try to pick up Jordan Love, someone that I mentioned a little bit earlier. I think he could be a decent pickup, has rushing upside, obviously great efficiency in his pass attempts. With Geno Smith and Aaron Rodgers out now, that's going to be a little bit concerning with the ankle.
All right.
So, I mean, this game's about to go into overtime, but I think we've seen a lot from the fantasy perspective. So we can just talk about it. Garrett Wilson's still that guy in New York. I mean, he had that great catch.
That was crazy.
That great touchdown catch. Yeah, just juggling the ball around defenders.
Right.
And then Breece Hall still looks extremely explosive. I love having Breece Hall and watching him play.
Yeah. A little bit like got it.
It looked like he was kind of lost a step, though. I mean, really sad to see on that 80-plus yard run where
last year that would have been a touchdown.
Yeah, easily. I mean, he would have absolutely burned. You saw that the Bills defender, the Bills safety, gain like 10 yards on him, which you just wouldn't see with traditional Breece Lightning.
Right.
So
Breece Lightning.
Yeah.
Here it is.
This goes into overtime.
Does that go in? Oh, wow.
All right, so I'm facing Garrett Wilson, guys, and now it's 16-16 going into overtime. I was up about 4 points, so it's looking really bad now that the Jets are going to have another shot at this maybe.
Whew.
Let's hope that the Bills get the ball and then just score a touchdown because Garrett Wilson is going to ruin my day. My offseason darling, though, so I'm not even like, if Garrett Wilson eats, I mean, I can't be too mad about it,
Guys, something to take note of right now, talking about this game. Breece Hall, 10 carries, Dalvin Cook, 13. But, guys, Breece Hall, obviously far more efficient than Dalvin Cook. 127 to Dalvin Cook's 33 on the ground. Kind of what I expected to see. I did think Hall would be on a bit more of a pitch count, but nonetheless, very, very happy if you're a Breece Hall owner. Also has a reception for 20 yards, so a very efficient guy all around. Very encouraging. Garrett Wilson, guys, obviously with Wilson going out. Obviously with Rodgers going out, Wilson coming in at quarterback, you're going to see a little bit less of, a ceiling there. Still going to be the number 1 target, undoubtedly. On Buffalo's side of thing, we see James Cook with 11 carries, guys, for 43 yards. Stephon Diggs is picking up right where he left off. who we all know him to be, 10 receptions, 102 yards, and a touchdown on 12 targets. An absolute beast. Nothing else really notable. Kincaid and Knox are right next to each other in terms of production. James Cook, 4 receptions for 17 yards. So seeing him as the lead back is very encouraging. That's always kind of been murky there in Buffalo. So I really like seeing that. Notable guys, Josh Allen only has 6 carries, which might sound like a lot for a quarterback, but for Josh Allen, we usually expect a lot more. As we stated on this podcast many times talking about the Bills, Josh Allen is wanting to rush less, so good for James Cook. Josh Allen, guys, has 3 picks today. So he struggled against this Jets defense, last year, and I kind of predicted that this week he was my bust at quarterback, actually.
Stephon Diggs has 26.2 points going into overtime. I mean, absolute beast, 10 receptions, 102 yards.
Imagine he scores a touchdown, too.
Let's hope that the Bills get this and score a touchdown, because I am in dire straits right now, guys. Week 1, I'm not too concerned about it. In my main league, I drafted Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp, got Kupp in the second round, and just something I could not pass up on. Couldn't do it. Jonathan Taylor, I got in the 7th round, 2 rounds behind ADP. You can't. Like, it was 2 players that I was shaky on. I mean, Cooper Kupp, I've never been shaky on, let's be real. But Jonathan Taylor, I was extremely shaky on. I didn't want any shares of him. But in my main league, getting him 2 rounds behind ADP, that's a league I want to win, so I just shot for it.
So, guys, Josh Allen has 11 points right now. So I'm gonna boost myself up a little bit. Great bust pick by your guy Max. So great bust pick and great call on Puka Nacua.